Hey, what's happening, my people? Try to be quick. So, language is important. The semantics that bind us in the system, they were meticulously devised to, number one, first, for them to work, they had to wage war on our psyche, for us to believe that this was actually law, yet recite and be taught all through high school and grade school even, that the Constitution and we the people, that was the foundation we were standing on. But if you delve into your logic, which is what they block us from, you know that everything that's in these courtrooms, it only serves corporate interests. It's for profit. There's very little that goes on in that courtroom that's actually for the betterment of humanity. Sometimes, there are horrid crimes that happen, and but that's what they base the entire thing on. The truth is, 75%, 76% of inmates are nonviolent. I laid that out. I got the actual numbers, the updated numbers. I think it's something like 66% are statutory violations, suspended license, victimless crimes. They're the ones that are in and out of jail the most. That's not law. So anyway, how this system wages war psychologically to keep us in our amygdala so that we can't process logically, even though we think we are. First, they know that, right? So this sovereign citizen thing, nothing I say comes from that perspective, because on one side you have, there's not even two sides. It's, if you're using corporate language, it's all the same side, right? So the sovereign citizen thing, the straw man, all that stuff, there's logic there. That's why people believe it, because there is some truth there. And the thing that they really stick you on, though, where they get people reciting this stuff and not knowing what the backbone is to it, it's because of the distrust for the system. So you want to believe that that's true, and there is semblance of truth in it. So I just want to give you an example of how this language can play against you. And I'm not saying don't use it. Don't definitely do your own research. TikTok is not research. YouTube, not research. There's things you can find on there. There's snippets, but you better delve into history and the origins of this language if you really want to fight it. So here's an example. When the dumbasses at my old company decided to pull bank fraud, and I bounced, I warned them. I said, I knew they were plagiarizing my language, and they were going to use integrity and all of the language that I use to beat insurance companies. They were going to try to use it as a sales tool. And I told them, you're going to fail. There's no way you can use that, because you have to know the origins. You have to know, these are fighting words. So if you're standing on the other side of this power structure, which is massive and extremely powerful, you better know what you're fighting. You better know what those words mean. You better know where they came from. You better be able to just be quick on your toes when a judge or somebody throws something at you, because here's how the psyche works. As soon as you step into a courtroom, anyone who's been there, you know, even if you know what you're doing, your heart drops. You know, there's a part, you go into, your brain is trying to process fight or flight, because it's not a safe environment, no matter who you are. Even if you're a judge, like the place is meant to scare you. That's why a judge sits up there on a bench for the image of being higher in a black robe, smashing a gavel. Like, think about that. The psychology of what that does to a person, guilty or not guilty. It's just to project the illusion of control so that it gets into your psyche. So if you don't know the origins of all that language, and you're standing in that courtroom, you're trying to recite this straw man shit, and I'm not saying there's not truth in some of it, but the sovereign citizen stuff, if you're trying to do that and you can't back it up back to the core of how it was created and where it came from and how it's used against us, and you don't know that both viscerally and academically, that the psyche is going to take over. You're going to clam up and you're going to be disregarded. Don't do it. Don't do it. There's ways. I broke the algorithm because I knew, I understood, but I didn't even understand it then to the extent that I do now. Now I have a deep understanding. And there's ways to get around it by still playing somewhat in accordance with their rules, right? So you just got to find out where the other side's breaking the rules, because the other side, the corporate side, is so cocky now because they've been able to control us for so long. We can catch them slipping all the time, and that's what I did. So the company that they pulled their shit, they're basically bankrupt. There's contractors all over the state wanting to kill this guy now. Everyone's suing him because, and I told them, don't use that language, because you're going to get charged for acting as an adjuster without a license, because when you get into that fighting language, the adjuster is going to throw something at you. You're not going to be able to answer it. Then it eliminates your entire argument. That's what happens in court. You might have the best argument in the world for why you've been infringed on and why you believe your rights are, we've been told our rights are this, so you know that. But if you don't have the ground to stand on, they can eliminate an entirely perfect, just argument, just based on the fear mechanism and the environment that they've created in that courtroom to keep you controlled. So if you're seeing things on TikTok talking about straw man, this shit sounds good, and there's a lot of good to it. But if you try to use it and you don't have the backing, like my company didn't, that's why it's collapsed now, it's dead. Because they stole language, they used it for sales. I guess they're still out there trying to collect checks from homeowners that don't even know they're collapsed. From what I understand, I haven't been there in years, but anyway, because they could sell, but they couldn't back it up, so they couldn't fight for people. And that's it's what happens when you step into that courtroom. I don't care who you are, sirens behind you, it does something to you. And if you're not prepared to process through that, and that's what I learned to do through cognitive processing therapy, and it was intense because my PTSD was intense. So now I'm more poised when I walk into these environments, and I can process through rather than fall into fight, flight, freeze, or collapse. I'm not telling anybody that your ideas are wrong, and I'm not saying that things aren't supposed to be the way that we know they are supposed to be. They are supposed to be that way. I'm just saying, arm yourself with the knowledge and the truth of what's going on right now. Like within your environment, what is the truth right now? And then arm yourself in accordance with the truth of the moment. Because yes, we all want it to be a different way, but it's not that way. So if we go in there fighting from the perspective of the way we want it to be, but that's not the reality that we're standing in, we're going to lose. And that's all I'm saying. I'm going through it with friends of mine right now, and I'm trying to say, look, there's a way we can win this thing. But we have to be, that's why I'm always hashtagging intellectual guerrilla warfare. You have to know the pathology of the lies. You got to understand the psychology of the people who make a living telling them. And once you understand the psychology of it and you're able to process through your own, then you can get there. But be very, very careful when you start reciting things like that, because the truth is we are all sovereign, and it says the states are sovereign. So just like conspiracy theory, when they didn't want, because conspiracies do exist, so what do? They start feeding this terminology that guilts people for thinking that there might be a conspiracy. Well, there's a lot of them, right? There was one with me. Same with sovereign citizen now. Okay, people are starting to get wise. How do we detract this? Let's throw a bunch of information out there. People are going to grab onto it because it sounds good. They're going to start using it. They're not going to know how to use it. They're going to look dumb. Then we can start calling them sovereign citizens. It's an evil game. It's both nefarious and insidious. Be careful. And anybody who's in it and they want to know how to break that corporate courtroom algorithm, I'm giving this information away for free. I love you guys. We the People NTWR, we just launched, we didn't launch it, but we launched the layout for Frequency Fest, so that's going down, and we got the human AI interface for a more utopian universe. I'm still fighting the shitbags in court, but they're piss ants at this point. Moving along. I just got to get through the core part. Anyway, I love you guys. Anybody, feel free to reach out. I'm extremely busy. This is my full-time job, fighting the entire system on my own. But reach out if you have questions. There's something in me that I get excited when people want to know, hey, how can I break this down non-violently? I'm there for you. I love you guys.